right, so welcome to our mental health resourcing dialogue that we're having. So my name is Ken, I'm one of the pastors here at the MCBC. And our purpose for doing this is one of the things we have done over the last few years as a church is we have had open dialogue and some learning about mental health. And part of it is to help us break the stigma of silence because we recognize that many people suffer in silence regarding mental health. And so because of COVID, we're doing things a little differently now. We're just doing things on this online medium. And I have a guest with me today, and her name is Eunice. I'm gonna let Eunice introduce herself at this moment. So go ahead.
Hi, everyone. My name is Eunice. I am a qualifying registered psychotherapist in the province of Ontario. I just recently graduated from the Tyndale University with MDiv in clinical counseling.
Great. So what we're going to do is we're going to have a conversation about some various topics. Each of these topics are going to be one of the videos. And our goal here, again, is to simply just open dialogue and discussion. At the end, none of this is considered medical advice. None of this is considered medical practices for us to take. What we're just doing is trying to offer insight and some open dialogue. Again, if you need help, we want to just say, check yourself with your family doctor or get yourself to an emergency room or even find some resources. One of the resources we like to advocate for is CAMH, Center for Addiction and Mental Health in the Greater Toronto Area. And all that is going to be put on the description for you. So with that, we're going to get underway, and I'm going to ask Eunice a few questions, and she's going to share with us some insights or some things for us to think about as we talk about these various subjects. So our first subject we're going to talk about is the idea of stress, and many of us face stress. There are good stresses and bad stresses, as we understand. So Eunice, why don't you tell us, what is a healthy understanding of stress?
So stress is basically a way that our bodies respond to the day-to-day struggles of life. A little bit of stress helps because it keeps us alert and also motivated us. But with too much of stress, it can chip away at both of our physical and mental health. And we'll talk about a little bit of the symptoms that we will experience when we experience a long-term stress.
So, okay, why don't we just do that? What are some of the warning signs or things that we need to think about when stress affects us negatively?
Yep. There are symptoms. They are symptoms that we call acute symptoms and the chronic symptoms. So acute is just the symptoms that sort of occur before or during a stressful situation. So it's more of short term. But I just want to highlight that this list is not exhausted, and it's not saying that if you don't experience any of the symptoms, it means that you're not stressed. It is just the common symptoms that people have experienced. So from the physical side, you will experience headaches, migraines, back pain, tense muscle, dizziness, indigestion, chest pain, and unexplained fatigue. And on the emotional or the cognitive side, you will experience more anger, you are more irritable, your loss of motivation, you find it hard to concentrate, and you also experience some memory problems. And some people, the stress will reflect in some sort of behaviors like nail biting, they pace more, their teeth grinding, they're clenching their jaws, disrupted sleep, change in diet, you get into more conflicts with people around you, social withdrawal, and some of them will experience substance use. So these are the acute symptoms that you will experience.
I see. So I guess one question I have is, I remember growing up, right? I would sometimes say to my parents, "Oh, I feel stressed," and sometimes, rightly or wrongly, my parents would have replied, "Oh, what do you know about stress? Does stress exist in children and in youth? maybe what are some of the things, if we have kids, what are some of the things we can look out for? So does stress exist in children and in youth?
Yes. So stress exists in all age group because life is challenging. So we do experience it in our day-to-day lives. Yes, they sometimes you think, oh, children, they are younger, so they may not experience stress, but they do have their difficulty and challenges in their life too. In children, it's harder for them to vocalize that they are stressed. They probably, like you mentioned, that they probably do not fully understand what that means. So they sort of reflect more in their behavior. So they start to act out. You find that they're more clingy, they are more irritable, they start to talk back. There are also changes in their sleep patterns, or they experience frequent nightmares. Some children will also have bedwetting, and they will about upset stomach or like headaches. So these are the general sort of behaviors that children reflect in children that are stressed.
What about then, like, if I was to take it the other end of the spectrum, how about seniors? I mean, a lot of times, retirees no longer have work, and so the job stress is gone. How do seniors maybe experience stress?
So seniors, again, this is just a general list, not saying that this is the case for all the seniors. For seniors, they probably don't recognize, or they not able to vocalize their stress reflect in physical symptoms. So they will complain a lot about, oh, I'm having a headache, I'm having muscle pain, oh, I'm feeling tired, I don't feel like eating, or I feel like eating more. They express physical discomfort more. So when you've seniors around you that start to tell you about all these things, they experience a lot of physical discomfort, then you probably want to check into with a physical family physician to see if they are experiencing a lot of stress.
All right, so we talked a bit about children and seniors. What about like youth, high schoolers, young adults, university age? How do we understand stress in that age group and what we can do about it?
So for youth, it's a little more challenging just because sometimes you can dismiss as they are going through that puberty stage. But it's also important for us to check into what's happening within them and to help them to recognize that. One of the most obvious one is the educational problems. So there are changes in their grades, or they start to skip classes. And they also have that kind of behavior that get more irritable and start to talk back, have a little bit more negative changes in their behavior. And they're no longer engaged in activities that they usually enjoy, or they have experienced frequent illness, sleep issues, and it's easy for them to withdraw because sometimes they feel like they are alone in this. So it's very important to not to dismiss just, oh, this is just a stage they are going through.
All right. So anything in terms of maybe just, your average middle-aged adult, anything for us to consider there?
So for adults, it's easier. Mostly they're able to express their emotions. So you hear that they say, I'm sad, or I'm blue, I'm down. Like I feel like I'm angry all the time. So there's like a little sort of like red flags that you can check into. Oh, are you stressed? What's going on? Or they talk about how like, oh, I feel like I have tense muscles. I feel like I have headaches all the time. So there's something that we can look into. Either you check with your family physician if there's anything physical, or is something that's happening inside.
So overall, everyone, I guess we have stress. So what are some helpful guidelines that we can have to maybe deal with stress? I know it's all different and all of it varies, but give maybe a few insights as to how we can handle stress better.
Yep, yep. So exercise. I also understand that it is harder now due to the pandemic restrictions. But do what you can, even inside the house. Exercise is very, very important. And then healthy eating, generate or create a healthy diet, and make sure you set aside time for yourself. This is what people usually say is self-care. Make sure you set aside time for yourself so you can rest and you can recharge. And talk about your problems. Don't avoid it. Suppressing it does not help. Get some social support. Even your problems will not be resolved. You can still have someone to listen to your problems to lighter the load.
Let me play on that one for 1 second. If someone says to me, I feel stressed, what are some ways that I can help them, other than just listening? What's important for me to consider and how maybe I should respond when someone says to me, if my kids come to me or if my wife comes to me and says, I'm feeling stressed, what is a healthy way for me to respond to them?
You can help them to identify their stressor. So like I mentioned earlier, stress is more like a response to the external environment to either like something happened in life. So you can explore that with your children, with your wife, with your friends to identify the stressor. What is stressing you? Sort of like, oh, is there anything happened recently? Is it a change of job? Is there something happened in your family? Is there any major life changes? Or is there any daily hassles that you experience? So to ask those questions will help the person themselves to identify the stressor, and then from there you are able to, or he or she is able to work on that issue.
Right. I think one important thing with that too is also for each of us to know our own limits, right? Some of us, maybe we go too far trying to push for an answer, and at the same time, sometimes we swing too far the other way where we just hear someone and we just don't even follow up. We're like, okay, you're stressed, and then we just walk away. So we got to find that right spot in between. All right, so that's our discussion here on stress. That's just sort of a general beginning point for us. So we're going to sign off here. Again, if you have questions or comments, we're going to put some information for you to contact us at the church. We want to let you know that even at our church, we have a support group that talks about mental health. And if you want to be a part of that group, we welcome that. At the same time, if you are also looking for a group to have support for mental health, if this group gets full, we are actually exploring to create another group as well. So we don't want anyone out there to suffer in silence. So we want to encourage healthy dialogue. We want to encourage healthy supports as we tackle this thing with mental health. And especially given right now with the pandemic, we know that it's a really important time for us to have this. So we're going to sign off here. Any closing words, Eunice, before we log off on this one?
Just as you mentioned, that because of where we are now during the pandemic, is everyone is struggling. Please don't think that because everyone is struggling, so I shouldn't be struggling, I shouldn't bother other people. If you need help, go get help. It's more of the idea of sharing the burden together. We're all in this together. So just remember that you are allowed to speak about your issues and you're allowed to get help.
Great. All right. So we're going to sign off on this one. And again, if this is something that's helpful to you or you know someone that it would be helpful for, please go ahead, like this and share this with others as well. So until next time, take care.